Imagine being able to rewatch your favorite TV show with your best friend, who has literally never seen an episode before. That's our premise, and what we hope will set us apart from the other Office podcasts you may have stumbled across. So welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads, Talkin Office, the podcast where three brave souls discuss every episode of The Office, from pilot to finale, and we get a fresh reaction from someone who has just watched the episode for the very first time in their life only hours before. Enjoy the show. And welcome one and all to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. And we are on to Season 2, Episode 3, Office Olympics. Now, for those not familiar, we are an Office podcast that features one co-host who is watching the episode we're covering for the very first time the day of recording. He has never seen it before. And then that person being Paul. Why don't you say hello, Paul?
Oh, hello, everyone.
And we're also joined by Joe, who is also an Office fan like myself, who can give some insight and maybe some perspective to Paul, who hasn't seen these episodes and does not know what comes next. Say hello to everybody, Joe.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so Office Olympics was first aired October 4th, 2005, written by Michael Schur, who, fun fact, we get to meet his character later in this episode, Paul, and it is kind of a blink or you'll miss it moment, so I'm looking forward to pointing that out to you. Episode was directed by Paul Feig, and let's start as we usually do. Joe, why don't you give us your favorite moment from Office Olympics?
Okay. So I've said this before, Stanley is my favorite character. It's just been like that. Upon rewatching, I like that character. So my favorite scene is Jim is walking around the office seeing who has games, and he asks Stanley, to which Stanley replies, "Yeah, I got a game. It's called Work Hard so my kids can go to college." Just that, just clap back at Jim. It just gets me every time.
Yeah, that's classic Stanley. Now, why do you think you like him? Do you relate to him? Are you kind of a curmudgeon yourself, or what is it about Stanley?
Yeah, I relate a lot to Stanley, maybe more than I should.
Yeah, that might be an internal reflection moment for you to think about why Stanley resonates with you, because I don't think he's on many people's top 5 lists, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, it's weird. The more I've rewatched the show, the more I find the side characters I gravitate toward. My top 3 is Stanley, Creed, and Kevin, which is so Paul. Over time you'll see why. Just based off my personality, I think you'll start getting why I go to these characters, and I think Scott kind of knows.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's quite the trifecta you're working with there, with those 3. But I'm not gonna reveal mine, but because we haven't met all of my favorite characters yet. But I guess maybe nobody to judge here. My favorite moment in this is it's a small moment. It's a Dwight moment, and I've noticed as I'm rewatching these that maybe it's because I'm so familiar with it and I've seen these so many times that it's the small things that really just stick out to me. And this is when Dwight is wondering where he can put his terrarium in Michael's new condo when he moves in to rent the 3rd bedroom, supposedly. And he describes what it is, and Michael's like, "Oh, like an aquarium." And Dwight just gives a look to the camera that I just love. Just like, no, it's not it at all. So that's my favorite moment. It's a small moment, but it's the one I love. Paul, what about you? Having seen it for the first time today, what was your favorite moment of Office Olympics?
So mine's also a Dwight moment. Mine's the talking head where he's like Mozart and I'm like Mozart friend. No, I'm like Butch Cassidy, and Michael is like Mozart. You try and hurt Mozart and you're going to get a bolt in the head.
Courtesy of Butch Cassidy.
Courtesy of Butch Cassidy. Yeah, that was such a brilliant quote.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's start talking about the episode here. So we get our first cold open of the series. We haven't had one to date, and I've been waiting for it because I couldn't remember when they start, but they do become more or less a staple, and The Office is known for having some amazing, legendary cold openings, one of which is the inspiration for our podcast title, so there's that to look forward to, Paul. This is not one of the better ones, though. Would you guys agree? What about you, Joe? You know what's to come. Would you agree this is a bit of a lackluster cold open?
Yeah, it's lackluster, but a part of me just loves the idea that Michael has Ryan come in hours early just to get him a breakfast sandwich, to which he just gets rid of the biscuit and he just eats the cake. I mean, it's that small thing I love, but it's not as good as what's to come.
Well, you got to watch the carbs. I guess the one funny bit I found in that, though, was when he encouraged him to go all risky business on the bit, take his pants off, run around. So that was kind of funny, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting more and more of this creepy relationship Michael has with Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very apparent in this episode, I felt.
Just wait, Paul, over the coming weeks is all I have to say to that effect. We learned Michael is becoming a homeowner, or, well, a condo owner at least, Paul.
Yeah. There's a slight difference between owning a condo and owning a home.
Just a bit.
Just a bit. And, that's we'll get to that when we get to that. But, yeah, he's excited to be a homeowner, and then I find out, he's getting a condo. Okay.
Pam explains that every so often Jim dies of boredom. So we get a little bit of her. I think she does it a little later too, kind of giving a little bit of a psyche breakdown, I guess, of Jim, just showing us how well she knows him, right, Joe?
Yeah. We're getting kind of we're learning more now that these two are obviously been paying attention to each other and their little quirks. Mm-hmm. They're infatuated with each other. But they can't say anything.
Right. Just taking mental notes of stuff. Michael is on his way to his realtor, Carol, who, I don't know if you knew this, Paul, is played by his real-life wife, Nancy Carell. He's on his way to sign the closing papers on his new condo, and Dwight more or less begs to tag along. What did you think of that scene, Paul?
Well, first of all, I didn't know that was his wife. I had no idea. And oh my God, I was waiting for some shit to ensue when that happened. I was like, this is not going to go well for Michael.
Right. And that's is that your favorite scene, the Mozart Butch Cassidy scene was kind of paired with that, and Dwight basically trying to be there as his, I don't know, muscle rep. I don't know, but feeling he has a lot to offer with his presence there. And eventually Michael does acquiesce and does allow him to tag along. But as they're leaving, Michael addresses Pam as most honorable Pamela, which is not offensive because that's how they talk in the movies.
That's how they talk in the movies. Jesus Christ.
He asks if his varied array of magazine subscriptions have been forwarded to his new address. Joe, you want to remind us what some of those titles might have been?
I love the small businessman. I want to know what that magazine is. It's such a weird title. And of course, Michael subscribes to Cracked Magazine.
And Maxim.
And
was it Fine Arts Aficionado or something like that?
He just makes something up so he doesn't sound like a total jackass.
Oh, my God. Okay, so avoid death by boredom. Jim immerses himself in the various games his coworkers have created. Everybody is in on this and kind of helps out, except for Stanley, as you pointed out earlier, Joe, in your favorite moment in the episode. But he learns of the game Hate Ball from Kevin and Oscar, Dunderball from Toby. What did you think of the unique games that the Dunder Office crew had come up with, Paul? And can you relate to any such games when you worked in an office setting?
Oh, I can relate to a lot of games. Some of them I made up when we worked together years ago. So yeah, Hate Ball is a very, very, very familiar one. So is Dunderball. I'll be honest with that one. Dunderball is a very, very common game. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's his oldest time, men throwing balls against the wall and catching it. And it just adds a new twist where you do it with a partner. But yeah, I thought that was an entertaining. I kind of wanted to play it after watching them play it. It looks fun.
It's a common cubicle game.
Yeah, and you can't see where the ball's coming from because you have that partition between you. I think that looks like a fun little game that Toby came up with or stole from.
It's
Lower.
fun till someone knocks over the coffee.
Well, come on, guys. Let's not forget Kevin's game that he plays. He puts the most M&Ms in his mouth. Oh, I can get behind that one.
Yeah, that's a Kevin. That's a Kevin game for sure.
And can I say I love the reason why they named the 8-ball game is because Angela dislikes the game. We call it 8-ball. Oh, yeah. Shit.
Well, as we'll learn later, Angela has her own game, but it's not exactly in good spirits or fun. So I don't think any game they could have come up with, I think Angela would have found a problem with it because that's Angela. She's the office bitch. Michael forgets which condo is his.
He's going to have kids growing up, and he's going to put a swing up for his grandkids to swing.
They're going to learn to walk out on the sidewalk in front of the house.
Oh, God.
You just got to remember where he lives, which, given Michael Scott, that can be a toss-up.
We learned finally that Dwight owns and runs a 60-acre working beet farm. So I know I kind of spoiled that for you, Paul, in a previous episode because there hadn't been reference to it, but there finally is a little more of a fleshed out backstory for Dwight. And he shows a picture of the farm, and standing next to him is his cousin Mose. And this is where we meet the character that is played by Michael Schur, the writer of the episode, Cousin Mose. So we just meet him in a quick picture, but there's more to come on the Mose front, I promise thee.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even catch that. No, I did not catch that.
Michael learns that his new neighborhood is gay-friendly.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, I love how they bring it up. The guy who's part of the condo association or whatever brings it up because I think he's assuming Michael and Dwight are a couple, and then Michael has that look of horror when Dwight's like, "Let's check out the master bedroom."
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too, Joe.
All right, guys, let's take our first break, and then we will come back and dive into the first annual Dunder Mifflin Olympiad. So let's get a break in here, and we'll be right back. If you're enjoying our Office podcast, be sure to check out Cast That Movie, the podcast where Paul and I, using our superhero aliases, revisit failed cinematic projects from the past. We discuss what went wrong, and then we try to fix the mess by going back in time and recasting the project with a cast we feel would have elevated the material. We also assign a new director/visionary. Because you can never have too much of a good thing, we also conjure up a dream project of something we would like to see made into a film, and we cast that as well. So find Cast That Movie on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, or at our home at thejodown.blog. Welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. We are talking Season 2, Episode 3, Office Olympics. And speaking of which, we return to the action with the opening ceremonies for the first annual Dunder Mifflin Olympiad. Paul, are you excited for these games or what?
I am excited for these games, especially, he's using the bathroom candle to get it started.
Right, and don't forget, in lieu of medals, winners in the games will be awarded gold, silver, and blue yogurt lids.
Yes, on paper clips.
Yeah, so points for creativity at very least, right?
Absolutely.
When Dwight points out the fact that Michael will still be paying off his mortgage into his 70s, Michael starts to get cold feet. Joe?
Oh, yeah, this is... Michael starts getting really uncomfortable. This scene I love for two reasons. Obviously, Michael's getting uncomfortable and cold feet because he finds out his 10 over 30 mortgage means he has a 30-year mortgage, 10 years fixed. Makes him really uncomfortable. And we also learned Dwight knows a lot about houses. He knows about load-bearing walls. We're getting this insight of Dwight, where he's he's more capable than I think we assumed beforehand.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is he's so socially inept at times that you take for granted that maybe that's the character is just an inept character that just happens to be a great salesman. But yeah, you're right. One thing I do like a lot about this episode is it really does flesh out Dwight a bit, gives us more facets to his character. So I think that definitely helps. And it also with Michael, I think him getting that cold feet, I'd like to hear your guys' take on it. For me, it just felt like he was almost having to reckon in a very vague way with like the idea of his death, because 30 years, he's in his, mid 40s. And, it's like, this is the house I'm going to die in type of thing. It's a permanent commitment to something that he's never been married, doesn't have kids. What do you guys think about like his reaction, or what scared him off in that moment?
First of all, a 10-year fixed mortgage is a terrible idea. I used to sell mortgages. Awful. You really should not go for a 10-year fixed mortgage. I think that's what scared him, is he thought, okay, I'm going to have this place for 10 years and I can go somewhere else. But what he's not also thinking is mortgages, people buy and sell mortgages all the time. I mean, he could find another place and have that money done. So I just think it was more responsibility of having a place for 30 years. From my gathering of Michael Scott's character, it's the responsibility of having a place for that long.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
Well, this is kind of like the first we'll see of many times Michael makes a decision on the fly, like pretty big decisions, where I think he's like, he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a homeowner, doesn't think about the responsibility. And it doesn't help that Dwight's there pointing out the carpenter ants and the paper thin walls. Like, the reality's starting to set in. It's like, oh, I'm set in this place for the long haul. So yeah, I think reality starts to hit Michael, which I think he's like, oh, I'm just going to do this flight of fancy type of thing.
Okay. Phyllis kicks some ass at Flonkerton. Guys, what did you guys think of Flonkerton?
I love Flonkerton.
Again, points for creativity, right?
I've worked in a place where we've done office Olympics. It was during holiday parties, but so like this was really relatable to me. I've done stuff like this. It does kind of boost the morale up a bit. I mean, it just gets you out. But Flonkerton, one, I love the name. Two, I love it's Phyllis and Kevin with like cardboard box standing on cardboard boxes racing. It's just.
Can I just say I want to bring up the origin, that I love how they came up with this, that it was an Icelandic competition. And they got to put their feet in the flonks.
All right, moving on. Michael is confident that he's made the right decision. He's a homeowner as they eat burritos on his kitchen floor. So he's just, he's accepted it now. It's over with. He couldn't back out because it would have been a financial catastrophe for him. So it looks like he's embracing it. He's coming to grips with it. And I guess a celebratory burrito was in order. I don't know.
Can I bring up something about him losing? This would have been a financial catastrophe. Mm-hmm. So he's got this 10-year fixed mortgage, which, again, bad idea. He's terrified of having a place for that long. So the money he put down of the $7,000 meant so much to him that he couldn't say no to having this house for 30 years. Like, that's not the best way of going about it.
Michael, ever the generous one, is going to let Dwight move into his third bedroom and pay him rent, Joe.
I love that he's like making this his last ditch effort to try to like help pay off this mortgage is to like let Dwight live with him and pay him rent.
What an honor.
Yeah. And then we find out Dwight has a 9-bedroom farmhouse with a crossbow range, which it's a pretty good situation for me.
Yep. So the walking, talking, wet blanket Angela, I teased this earlier, tells Pam about a game she's created called Pam Pong. Paul, what are your impressions as you get to know Angela a little bit better episode by episode?
I just fucking hate this woman. She is someone that every single office job I've had, I've worked with, and I cannot stand that person ever. Like, I can just funnel all my hate for this particular individual from all these different jobs into Angela. That's my take.
Yeah, she is the office bitch. That's not even my description of her. That's Angela. Is it Kinsey? I think the actress. That's her description of the character. Is yes, she was the office bitch. So a successful performance so far, if that's what they're going for. And you need characters like that, I guess, to round out the rest of the cast, or maybe make them more relatable, but making her less relatable. I don't know. Yeah, she's a total Karen.
Yes.
Michael tells Dwight that nobody likes beets and he should grow something people do like candy. Just Michael in that car scene just kind of goes off on Dwight, just kind of lets him have it. And going back to a psychological evaluation on what's going on in Michael's head, what do you guys think brought that about, that he lashes out at Dwight so harshly?
I think he's not happy with getting the condo, and he's lashing out at Dwight because Dwight's the one who's like putting in his head that this might not be the greatest thing he's doing, and Dwight's there, and also Dwight didn't help it by trolling Michael, so he didn't have to move in with him.
Right.
Like, Dwight's doing that literally. He's like bringing up his terrarium and his mass of armoires.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think Michael he's obviously really raw, and we've already established he's not the most mature character. So yeah, he's just acting out. And Paul, do you have any insight to add as to what's going on with Michael?
I think it had a lot to do with the previous conversation of Dwight trolling him. And I think it's because he basically had to pull back the offering from Dwight's trolling. So now he's pissed because he's got this place and he's not sure how he's going to fucking afford it.
Right. Michael and Dwight return to the office and the festivities come to a screeching halt, much to Jim's disappointment. He really got invested in these office Olympics, guys. We really saw Jim in the office setting come alive in a way that we've only ever really seen when he's pranking Dwight, right?
Yeah, Pam even has a line where she's like, when Jim's really into something, it's like really great, but because he works at Dunder Mifflin, he's rarely ever like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I thought was really interesting was that he didn't care that Michael and Dwight were back. He's like, let's keep playing the games.
Ryan throws away his gold yogurt lid, and Pam sees him do this. We've talked about, we don't really know a whole lot about Ryan. He's probably one of the least developed side characters, even though he's main cast side character so far. We'll get to know him in the next few weeks a little better. So you're aware, Paul, he just, we've said he doesn't always stay this way. But what did you guys think of that scene? I thought that said a lot about Ryan, that, the disregard for something that Pam and Jim, obviously, they were invested in it to a degree, right?
Yeah, Ryan's not invested in this. He's having fun, but I mean, like he says, like, what am I going to do with this yogurt cup connected to some paper clips? It means more to Jim, those things from Pam, than it'll mean to Ryan.
Jim and Pam gather everybody for the closing ceremonies. And as the Star-Spangled Banner plays and Michael is awarded a gold medal for closing on his condo, he begins to well up. I think that honestly was a major contender for me for my favorite moment. I usually go for the comedy bits, but I don't know. There was something about him tearing up that I thought was really powerful and did a lot to advance his character. Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It also shows that, to an extent, Jim cares about Michael to an extent. Like, he didn't have to do that, but he brought him out there and played the Star-Spangled Banner because, obviously his condo's in America. And the doves come out. Yeah, it helps Michael's character, but it also gives me, it gives a little more insight that Jim, despite all his complaints about Michael, he does care a bit for the guy.
Right. Paul, anything to add on that?
I thought the most emotional part of that was doves. just these doves on paper. I want to know how she rigged that together because I want to do that in an office. So I thought that was really cool. No, I thought it was great. It gave a little bit of, you're exactly right. It showed more about Jim, but also, Steve Carell is a really good actor. The fact that he was able to well up those tears like that and be able to play that kind of level of emotion is really, really good.
Agreed. All right, that does it. That's Office Olympics. We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back, and we are going to give our takes of the episode, as well as our favorite character who we thought won the episode, and then we're going to check in with Paul. Excuse me. We're going to check in with Paul, and we're going to see if Office Olympics is his new favorite or if it is still the reigning champion, the Alliance, and also if Jim is still his favorite character or if somebody else has taken over that mantle. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paul Muad'Dib, one half of the group that does Podcasts Above a Convenience Store, Talkin Twin Peaks, where myself, along with Joe Fremming, dig into the Twin Peaks TV show, the movie, and the books, and the history. As a matter of fact, the latest one is going to be The Secret History of Twin Peaks. So if you enjoy the banter that we have here on the Office Podcast, be sure to check us out on Podcasts Above a Convenience Store, Talking Twin Peaks, which is on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, or you can find us at our webpage home, thejoedown.blog.
Welcome back to Bears Beats Bubbleheads Talking Office. We are finishing up Season 2, Episode 3, Office Olympics. All right, time to get down to brass tacks, boys. So, Joe, start with you. What was your take of the episode overall, and who do you feel won the episode?
This is a good episode. It's pushing the Office. Like, now we're getting into the swing of things. We're getting out of kind of like I don't want to call them doldrums of Season 1, but we're kind of like, that's getting further away in the rearview mirror for me. And this episode has there's 3 main characters in this episode, and I like them all, but I gotta go with Dwight wins this for me because we get a little more information from him. He's a little more likable in this episode for me, and going forward, having a little background of Dwight really helps, and that he's very knowledgeable about homes and architecture or whatever. It's fascinating to me. So yeah, I'll say Dwight won this for me.
Okay. My take on the episode is that I didn't laugh out loud a lot. It's not one of those gut buster episodes with a lot of funny moments. But it is a good character building episode. A lot of characters get more well-rounded. So I do like the episode. It's not one of my favorites, but it serves a great purpose. For me, I think Michael actually won for the reasons I just brought up. I agree with you that Dwight's character gets advanced, but I think we're kind of in this Michael rehabilitation here after the Season 1 Michael. And I think the moments he has in this, the vulnerability he feels, with the commitment he's making, it's just, he becomes more relatable. Paul, it is your turn. What is your take on this episode, and who won it?
So I will agree with you, with you guys. There's some funny things in it, but this one really wasn't all that laugh out loud funny. So, but I do agree that I felt like I'm finally starting to see some character development in the show. And for the first time, I'm going to go with Dwight as the winner with Joe on that one, because exactly that. He came off more likable in this one. We got a little bit more insight into Dwight, and as abrasive as he is, you're starting to see the side of him that he's not as. We talked about it. He's socially inept, but he's not as a complete whatever as he came across in the first season and that he did, I think, in this episode.
All right, I think that does it. I think we did a very, very apt analysis of Office Olympics, and it's time to put it to bed. But we are going to come back next week with Season 2, Episode 4, The Fire. So for Joe, who's right there, and Paul, who's way over there, I'm Scott, and we'll be back next week on Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. For more podcasts like this one and general pop culture tomfoolery, be sure to visit thejoedown.blog. That's thejoedown.blog.